Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome back to a brand new episode, a very belated episode of Battle of the Brackets. I'm Chris Garner, joined with our fighters tonight, George Aldridge, Tate Niawa, and Naomi. I am blanking on your surname right now. I feel really bad.
It's been too long for me being on this that you've completely forgotten.
I know.
How dare you?
I'm very, very sorry. And judge for tonight is Phil, joining us again. Thank you very much.
Hi, welcome. Excited to join.
Thank you. And this is going to be a good one. This is one we've been wanting to do for a long time. This is almost like a sort of spiritual successor to the greatest Battle of the Brackets episode that no one will ever see, which was Greatest Comic Book Movie. Today, we're talking all things Marvel in anticipation for Avengers Infinity War, which comes out Thursday for us, or Wednesday midnight.
25 hours.
Yes, mark your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be arguing as to what is the best Marvel Cinematic Universe moment. This isn't every Marvel film, so you won't see, unfortunately, any of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man moments in this. This is purely from Iron Man 2008 up until, what was the last one? I guess it would be Black Panther, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Racist.
So I'm going to be handing over to George now to go through the list of everyone's picks and how it works.
There. If you guys look at my screen, you should now see a very red bracket, which is why my face is going to be a red lot tonight when I'm doing editing. So up first, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy introduction kind of opening scene of the song, because it's not the actual opening scene. Captain America's propaganda, which is, sorry, the first one's Naomi, this one was Chris. We've got Batman in Spider-Man Homecoming, where he's in the Vulture in the car. We've got Iron Man versus Cap and Bucky, who doesn't fit in, which is Tate's. We've got the Civil War airport scene versus the Avengers first battle of them all. Get technically Civil War .1. We've got the car chase from the Winter Soldier versus the casino scene from Black Panther. We've got the Ancient One's death speech versus Yondu's death. We've got the Iron Man final credit scene versus the 360-degree / I'm Always Angry from the Avengers. We've got Did You Know from Civil War versus Loki getting smashed by Hulk and Avengers. We've got Cap refusing to fight in the Winter Soldier versus King and Jobu versus T'Challa.
Awesome. So I guess we'll go for the rules now for anyone watching this who doesn't know how it works. Each of us are going to be arguing each other's picks, and we will have a minute on the clock for the initial argument. Then you'll get the other person's 1 minute argument. Then it will go to a 30-second rebuttal for each person. And then it hands over to everyone else, all the people that weren't fighting, to judge on what they think was the best moment, the best argument. And this is by the argument. This isn't just by the moment. It's how well you argue it in the match. So with all that being said, do we have any predictions for tonight, or are we just going to jump straight into it?
The prediction is that there might be a better moment in Infinity War to do next year.
Possibly. Yeah, that's true.
And we also missed out a lot of very good scenes from this franchise. Considering there's...
I've seen, I'll be going through it, so I'm dodgy not fighting this time around, but I've been going through, look at the clips. There's a lot that's been missed out, but not because there aren't a lot more great moments, it's because there are so many great moments, it's hard to kind of narrow all down.
Well, I mean, we had like, what, 18, 19 movies to choose from, isn't it, at this stage?
Don't upset DC fans.
I was going to say that would be a very short list if we were going with best DC Cinematic Universe moments.
Also, I want to say I have no idea who's manning the comments tonight. I'm keeping well away due to the fact the Avengers premiere happened, and if people are desperate, then they could probably find some spoilers in the dark corner of the universe. I've got no intention of going there. So I am off the comments like I did for Star Wars.
Awesome.
Chris is on the comments because I'm also off the comments because I don't want to sacrifice any spoilers. I've got a clock ready if you guys want to get going.
Oh, wow. Okay, so match one is the opening musical montage opening credits scene from Guardians of the Galaxy versus the Star-Spangled Man with a Plan from Captain America. Naomi, I believe you're up first, so Tate's on the clock. You have 1 minute.
Naomi, 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, you do have that summer moment with Peter and his mum. So you think, oh, that's going to be the tone for the film. It's going to be the serious movie. It's going to be focused on that. And then suddenly Chris Pratt comes out with his Walkman and just goes, "Come and get your love." And it's just fantastic because it's just Chris Pratt dancing around on a planet with nothing else. And it just brings you into such a good mood for the movie. Like, you don't know what's going to happen for it, but whatever it is, it just seems like it's going to be an amazing time, and you just want to party with Chris Pratt. I mean, to be honest, who doesn't want to party with Chris Pratt? And it's a good song to use. The soundtrack for Guardians of the Galaxy is probably one of the best uses of jukebox soundtracks. And it is just relying on Chris Pratt's performance alone. So it's just having a focus on him. Yeah.
Okay, and 1 minute on the clock. Go.
Okay, the Star Spangled Man montage from the first Captain America film is one of the best cinematic universe moments in that so much is contained in this one, like, 2 to 3 minute musical montage, which on the surface is very silly, but that inherently is why it's so great, because it does a number of things. One, it homages what the original Captain America character was. It was a character created in the comics to be that wartime propaganda. They homage that in the scene where, you know, he punches Hitler in the face, and I think you even see a shot of Captain America, the first ever issue, so it's important to Marvel history in that one scene. But they sort of subvert it on its head, because inherently that's what the Captain America character was originally, propaganda. But this is showing him wanting to be more than that. He's forced into, like, movies and these stage shows and everything like that. And you can see that he's having to go along with it to keep up the morale of America. But he wants to do it in a more proactive way. He doesn't want to just be this poster child, essentially. And that's why it's very clever. Also, because...
And stop. Okay, 30-second rebuttal. Go.
Well, you say that it's like, when I watched it, I just felt like he was, I don't know if it's meant to be, but he just looks so uncomfortable. And that's just the feeling that I get from watching it. I just feel uncomfortable watching the fact that he does want to be something bigger, but it just feels disingenuous to me. Like, the whole thing with Guardians of the Galaxy at the beginning, you're having a fun time with it. With this, you're not having a fun time at all. And also
stop.
with the
okay, stop.
thing,
Okay, and rebuttal.
Yeah.
Go.
he is meant to be uncomfortable. That's the entire point of his character in that moment. He wants to be more than the country is making him. Guardians of the Galaxy, it's a fun moment, but this moment follows, I don't know if we're bringing this into context, follows right on from, like, a very serious character moment, completely just juxtaposes that scene that came before, which was a great scene. And if you want, like, a fun Chris Pratt with music, you get that through the entire rest of the movie. It's nothing special. It's just a guy dancing to a great 70s song. And that's it. There's no substance, there's no context to read into that.
And stop.
It's just the character having fun.
sometimes you don't need context.
Oof.
Context is
Okay.
always important.
Who wants to go first?
Don't everyone speak at once.
I will. I thought Naomi opened very strong, sort of telling you, you know, you think the film's going to be like that with the opening scene from Guardians, then you do get the Chris Pratt singing and dancing. It's a great moment. And then I think the argument just turned more into about Chris Pratt, which is great because I love Chris Pratt. If anyone's seen Parks and Rec, you know what I mean. However, I thought she lost it when she said he's uncomfortable because that's the point of Captain America and that montage scene. So I think Chris nabbed it on the attack from that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go next. Agreed. Opening for Naomi very strong. Talking about, again, I agree with George's point there of the juxtaposition between the very serious opening to the very fun dancing scene. It is one of my favorite scenes in the MCU just because it is so fun. However, as Chris made a very, very good point, the Star Spangled Man with a Plan is a much more poignant moment in the film and serves the film a much bigger purpose. Chris Pratt just dances around. Yes, it's fun, but it does introduce you to the character, but not in a way that Cap does in the Star Spangled Plan. With Star Spangled Plan, it gives you this whole, his raison d'etre, his wanting to go, I need to do something more than I am. And Chris argued that point better, so I'm going to give the point to Chris there.
Thank you.
I know that it doesn't matter now, but Chris is going through. I would have also given the point to Chris based off the idea of bringing in the fact that it was a homage. It felt like you were reading a Captain America comic, the original ones, which you can see some of the kind of clippings online, and that's basically all it was. It was propaganda. So based off that, then I would have given the point to Chris.
Awesome. So that completes the first round. We move on to one of my favorite actors of all time now, Michael Keaton. Unfortunately, he's not joining us on the stream tonight, just in the match. So we've got the Vulture moment in the car from Spider-Man Homecoming against the final fight from Captain America Civil War. George, I believe you have the Vulture moment against Tate in this one, so this is going to be very fun. I will man the time on this one to make it fair, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, give me a second. Right, George, you have
Come
1
in.
minute, sir. Go.
So Spider-Man Homecoming is a piece of shit. There, I said it. And sometimes when you look at films like that, when you're having such a dismal cinematic experience, to get the moment where Tom Holland opens the doors and the entire film changes when he realizes he's her dad, that completely changed everything. And we've seen a trailer shot of him saying, well, I would kill everyone you know. But that car scene where a villain works out 3 feet away who Spider-Man is in a car with his daughter, it's easily one of the most villainous moments of this franchise. Because this franchise has no villains, and he gets someone working at his opponent, threatening him and coming good with it. He's absolutely terrifying when you've got the lighting with the red lights and stuff. You genuinely fear for Peter Parker. Of course you want Tom Holland to get killed by the Vulture, but you fear that this is something that can happen, that you've never had this in a Marvel film before. You've never had such an intense moment in a film, especially the tension of them being 2 foot away, not even their superhero and villain mode. They're literally in their normal alias characters. How long have we got left?
You've got 4 seconds left. So
let's leave it. I'm ready for round 2.
Okay, right. 1 minute on the clock. Tate, go.
You're talking about tension. You're talking about the final fight scene in possibly the best Marvel film. And after the previous Did You Know scene, this is where the fight actually kicks off. And the CGI they actually use for it, the kind of set piecing that they put them in the situation where they can actually get the comic book shot of Iron Man blasting the shield and light coming off, with a fight choreographed to almost perfection, beat for beat moments in which you can actually get fully involved into the film. I have to say, this scene actually made me think, wow, Tony might actually try and kill him, or at least the Winter Soldier. This is the complete fallout from what had previously happened throughout the entire film. And the effect of this fight scene alone, the fact that Cap wins it and chooses to walk away and cut Tony off at the end, really does kind of elevate the levels which will move out throughout the next few Marvel films. This film was affected by the films before, and it's going to affect the films in the future. For sure.
Time.
The problem with your moment is that there's a better moment 2 minutes before Did You Know? There's a better fight scene 10 minutes before at the airport. It's a great scene. It's a good choreographed fight scene, but every scene in Civil War and Winter Soldier is choreographed with the Russo brothers. It's a fight that has to happen because the plot requires them to fight. It's seen in the trailer. It leaves almost no impact on you in the film because you know in 2 years' time they're all going to be mates again for Infinity War. That fight scene is not easily a good moment, whereas mine, I've got the best moment from Spider-Man Homecoming, one of the tensest moments in this entire franchise, whereas yours is choreographed, predictable, and everyone knows exactly what's going to happen by the time you get to the end of it.
Time, 30 seconds, Tate, go.
Do you really know what's going to happen? I really thought that whilst watching the film, something bad can really happen here. Someone can go completely over the edge. And sure, the fight scene does drag on a lot, and it goes really, really, really in-depth into its choreography. But with your scene, it starts off kind of meandering, and it ends with kind of a drop in the tone completely afterwards. It doesn't really affect anything immediately afterwards. It affects it maybe a little bit in the long run, but my fight scene has affected it immediately and affects it in the future.
Good fight.
First, or...
I'll quickly jump in on this one. I must admit, I flip-flop in between the two then. I'll tell you why. Agreed, don't like Homecoming. I'm a massive Spider-Man fan, and I hated half of Homecoming because it felt like Iron Man 3.5, not a Spider-Man film. That's a different rant for another day. However, what sold my point here, what sold the argument for me, was the point with Cap versus Iron Man versus Bucky. Yes, it is a very important scene to that film. However, it doesn't really have as much an impact going forward as Homecoming with Vulture and Spider-Man. At that point, he knows he's got more at stake than he at first realized. With Cap and Bucky and Iron Man, going afterwards, as George said, they will be mates afterwards. And unfortunately, to me, that's what sold it, and I'm going to give the point to George.
Naomi, do you want to go next, or...?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. The point that George said with how you know that everyone's going to be buddy-buddy again in time for Infinity War. How that would happen, I'll be intrigued to find out. But at the same time, everyone's seen the trailer, everyone knows that they're all going to come together. With Spider-Man, I will admit, not as much as I love Tom Holland, not exactly enthusiastic with everything that Homecoming has. But I love Michael Keaton as well, and I think he does really well in the scene. the final fight is a very good fight, but George also pointed out there are better fights in Civil War as well. So, gonna give it to George.
I was actually on Tate's side for the initial 1 minute argument, but George just like completely wrecked you in the rebuttal, I'm afraid. Also, you kind of shot yourself in the foot where you said, like, yes, my fight scene does drag on for quite a long time. I was like, well, if it drags, then it's clearly not doing something right. I like the fact that George brought in that every fight scene in that movie is well choreographed, and I think he just tore you down a little bit more in the rebuttal. But you had me on the initial argument, but I would have given it to George as well. We've had 2 clean sweeps then so far in the first 2 fights. Maybe it will all change in this one.
And next up, we have Chris and the airport battle from Civil War versus the fight in the park from the Avengers with Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America.
Yes.
Okay. 1 minute on the clock, starting now.
Okay, you can kind of chalk like the success of what Infinity War is going to be and the scale that is right back to this moment from Civil War. This was a moment that everyone was waiting for. If you'd read the comic books, even if you'd just seen the trailers, you knew that it was gearing up for something special. And this fight scene absolutely delivered. Usually I wouldn't pick fight scenes like that because they do tend to be kind of like a dime a dozen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But this one truly, as a comic book fan, you just sit back for like 10 or 15 minutes and just take in the glorious action you are seeing in front of you. You've seen all these people that were once friends completely divided and fighting each other. So that in itself is a very interesting concept. But on top of that, every single character gets their moment to shine. You could just like focus on the main ones. Every single character, minor or major, gets something to do in this fight. Not only that, but they bring in one of the most beloved Marvel characters of Ant-Man, and we finally get Giant Man, and it's a glorious moment. They do some really creative things with it. There's fun little one-liners in there.
And stop and go.
You're right. Civil War, the airport scene, that's bringing up everything and these friends and all that. But take your mind back to the Avengers. The big part of the Avengers, how is these people going to be on the screen at the same time? This is the very first time you get Captain America, Thor, and we've lost Tate, and Iron Man together on the screen. And they, without doubt, have one of the finest moments. Each character is witty within themselves. They stick to their character principles. And along with the character principles, you then get them fighting. You've got Iron Man being witty, driving for Thor, Thor not knowing proper English, Shakespeare in the park. Then you get a brilliant small fight scene, almost teasing things to come, because we never do get Thor in Civil War. This is the only time we've seen him outright fight Iron Man. And then top off, you bring in Captain America, introduce the hero, the goody two-shoes, and how he's going to stop the fight. It's a brilliant moment where we're seeing these 3 iconic legends together for the very first time on screen, and each one comes out looking even better than they did 2 minutes before. No one has been put down to focus on someone else. They've all been given their spotlight, and they've each worked within each other to make this a fantastic moment, and everything fans wanted seeing this.
And stop. 30 seconds rebuttal. Go.
You get to see all those characters together on screen anyway, and that particular scene there, Shakespeare in the Park, really, nothing is accomplished by it. It is just purely an action scene because you need an action beat at that point in the movie. And nothing comes of it. Loki just escapes, they just leave it, and it gets caught up in the style over substance in that moment just to see those characters fight. My fight scene introduced Spider-Man into the mix, which was the first time that we'd ever seen him interact with these characters, which is great just to sort of see the MCU grow as a whole, and it's also a precursor to everything you're going to get.
And go.
Loki doesn't escape. He's sitting on the roof, and they then take him straight after. It's a great moment because the part of the Avengers is the fact they don't get on. They're not friends, and then it's building up to that final part where they do become friends. This settles the nerves of people falling out of each other way before that concept even's there. This is bridging it, and you see these guys at their lowest points in terms of friendships rising up to the top. Civil War's a fantastic fight scene, but there's no individual moments within that fight scene. It's all just a couple of seconds here and there. You don't get any character development, and they intentionally leave out the most powerful person of all time, Vision, because they know if he's in there, it's game over.
And stop. I'm going to go first on this one. George, Vision was in the fight scene at the airport.
No, I said they bring him in later.
I know. Okay. From those arguments, I feel like the scale that Chris put, kind of envisioning the 2 fight scenes in the head, obviously one is a lot larger than the other, but Chris managed to sell me on the airport scene a bit more than you were able to sell me on a very kind of small scene, as Chris kind of stated. So I'm going to give it to Chris.
Thank you. Also, before we carry on, we've had a comment from Sheila saying, "Doth mother know you weareth her drapes?" Which, yes,
he calls him Metal Man.
Word. Yes.
it's a great scene.
Anyone else?
I'll jump. it's kind of difficult because you both argued it really well, but even though you did make the mistake of saying that Loki did escape in that one, it does beg the question: why didn't he? I mean, he was just sitting there. Why didn't he just
It's his
off?
plan to get caught.
It was his plan to get caught.
Oh, just like that movie from 2008 starring Heath Ledger and Christian Bale.
Whoa! There's like a 10-year trend of everyone else doing it. Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but seriously though, I was more sold on the fact that everything with Civil War had been building up to the airport fights. And sure, I know Thor isn't in Civil War, and it is great to see him with Iron Man and Captain America. I think the fact that it is more Iron Man and Captain America fighting against each other, and it has been building up because everyone knows that comic series. Yeah, I think I'm giving it to Chris.
Fair enough. It is a hard one. I do love Civil War, but I think, on a personal note, I think Shakespeare Park has more of an impact than the airport fight, because although the airport fight is cool, it kind of is a bit lackluster because it's just an airport fight, whereas from the comic fan, you just expect so much more. In terms of the arguments, though, I will give it to Chris purely on the basis that he made much more of a point of the impact of the scene and impact of where it was in that particular film and the wider MCU. And we are looking at everything as a whole instead of just the individual films and the scenes and everything else. So just based on the argument, I will give it to Chris, although on a personal note, I prefer Shakespeare in a Park also because it's funnier, and at the end you get the giant hammer bell wrecking the trees, which if you put that in, I may have given the point to you, George, but for now, go with Chris on that one, even though personally I prefer Shakespeare in a Park.
It's so hard to compare the scenes because they're basically the same.
They are.
Here we only have 3 major characters because that's all we have. Here we have the world. Oh, right, that sound. That is the airport battle through.
Again, it's another clean sweep, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the Winter Soldier car chase versus the casino brawl from.
Now, this one I'm looking forward to, actually, because this should be a really cracking one.
So this is Tate versus Naomi. So Tate, you're up first. Minute on the clock. Time starts now.
I want to start you with the car chase scene with the fact that this is really the first proper big action scene that we see Samuel L. Jackson in. And he is always been a brilliant actor who takes into his roles just his amazing acting ability, and the fact that he is such a presence in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the background, finally to get out and have kind of his own scene to kind of display himself, it's brilliant. We then have what turns out to be a brilliant car chase, just an amazing car chase going through the streets. But the biggest part of this entire chase is the moment where the Winter Soldier steps out and blows up the car. And this is the first introduction we've had of the Winter Soldier. After all of these, I'd say, minions try and take down Nick Fury, he's managed to fight them off using machine gun turrets, using the car's capabilities, using just his own wits and his ability to get out of situations. He finally comes up against something which actually poses a threat, and it poses a threat to a character from the universe for the first time.
1 minute, Naomi. Go.
Okay, I'll agree with you with the fact that at the end, it does really well with the Winter Soldier bit. But out of all the car chases in Winter Soldier, like, you could have had any of them and you had to go with that one. I'm pretty sure, like, there's much more of an emotional weight with the one with the bridge with Bucky. But anyway, with the Black Panther scene, there's so much tension in it because you don't know what's going to happen. You know the goal, and then you see Martin Freeman there, so you're like, can he help, can he not? And it's just like, will something trigger it off? Will something happen? It's just building up that tension, and then once it all goes off, it's just a fantastic fight scene, very well choreographed, and just using the whole of the location rather than just, oh yeah, just tap this, tap that. And you know, it's not just Black Panther as well, but all the other characters as well. They really encompass trying to get the goal.
Time, 30 seconds, Tate, go.
We're going for the best Marvel Cinematic moment here. We're not going for like emotional scenes or anything like that. This is a brilliant action set piece where Nick Fury is able to get out all these situations, and you finally see the main villain of the film. The biggest villain, I'd say, posed since Loki in any of the films. And he comes out of nowhere and he blows up the car, and you actually feel that you have a character who we love under fire and in immediate danger. And with your scene, it just kind of bolts out.
30 seconds, Naomi, go.
Not every great Marvel moment has to be an action scene. You can have great emotional scenes as well in it. And true, my Black Panther one isn't emotional, but it does bring up the tension. You have the characters there, you see everything that happens, but you don't know what's going to happen. With this, you know it's going to be a car chase of some sorts, and to be, like I said, out of all the car chases, this one is very monotonous. Out of all of them that are in...
And stop.
Winter Soldier...
Stop. Whoa, back it up a tad. Cease. End.
Knock myself into a wall, why don't I?
I genuinely don't know where I stand on this one.
I'll go first. I know very clearly where I stand on this one, actually. Naomi, you lost that completely in the rebuttal there.
I don't mind. I'm terrible at arguing anyway.
Tate made much more stronger argument for his scene, and you gave yours away with the not every great MCU moment has to be a fight scene, can be emotional. Granted, my scene isn't emotional, and by that particular point, you'd lost the argument, you'd lost your point. And I think overall, Tate argued his moment better. I have to say, I love that entire casino scene. It's a very good scene, but you missed a few key points. Yes, you had the tension there, but you missed the use of Chosa, you missed the use of not only Martin Freeman's character going in there, but you missed the whole interaction between him and T'Challa and everyone else. There's so much going in that scene you didn't include, whereas Tate managed to boil his down to a few key points, and I'm giving the point to Tate there.
Yeah, no, I'll agree. I like how Naomi made mention that your character sort of like utilized the environment a bit more, but Tate sort of had me when he says there's more stakes going on in his scene, because we are seeing this character who at that point is essentially the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he is beset on all sides and looks like he's not going to make it out of it. So I think he just argued the tension was more there, and he had more of a well-rounded argument in that regard, I thought. So I'd probably give it to Tate.
I would agree. I thought Naomi made a great point about the environment, but didn't build off it. Tate didn't attack Naomi much, but he had so much of a defense in that there wasn't too much to do. Also, Tate, I want to correct you that it was not Samuel L. Jackson's first fight scene. It was Nick Fury's first fight scene. The Battle of Geonosis was Samuel L. Jackson's.
I did say in the Marvel universe, but yeah.
But yeah, no, that's is that another clean sweep?
It is, yeah.
Yes, it is.
No tension
Oh, you're
yet.
bad at this.
And if you look at my screen now, we have the halfway point of round one, where we have already lined up for part 2, Captain America montage versus Spider-Man Homecoming, and the airport scene versus Bucky.
I love the Infinity Gauntlet there, mate.
It's because they're all getting destroyed for tomorrow night. So we're at the halfway point of round 1, which leads us to part 2, which is a Tate versus Naomi rematch. This time, the Ancient One's death versus Yondu's death. All very lively here.
Level playing field on this one. So, Tate, are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, 1 minute, go.
This is a moment of calm in what is the wackiest, or at least the most visually wacky Marvel film to date. This is a moment where the Ancient One slows down time and pulls Doctor Strange aside and basically announces, like, saying, I know this is my time to die. I know it's my time to pass on, and I'm okay with that. You now need to take on the mantle. This is where I'd see Doctor Strange really kind of take on the role of a hero for the first time. This is the moment where he kind of gets the idea, okay, I've got to get through this now. But it's also a beauty. The film having mind-bending areas and fight scenes, this is just so peaceful. Stretching out time for eons. It encapsulates everything that you want from an emotional moment. With Yondu's scene, it disappoints me that it has to be in that film. I like the scene, but it doesn't have the same weight. It doesn't have the same gravitas as...
1 minute, yes. Naomi, go.
You want to talk about emotional weight? Just the line, he may be your father, but he ain't your daddy boy. just that alone can send grown men crying. Because although it's a sequel, we do know these characters better. We do know that Yondu basically raised Star-Lord and that he was the real parental figure for Star-Lord rather than the weird planet dad that he had. And that's why it's so emotional when Yondu does die. With the Ancient One, and I'll be honest, I didn't really like Doctor Strange. I didn't feel any kind of connection. I didn't feel any kind of empathy for the character. I might be alone on this, but when the Ancient One did go, I was kind of like, oh, this is kind of cliche. This meant to happen. It follows a very similar formula to every superhero film, where you get the starting hero, you get the wise older figure, and then that figure goes.
And time before we continue. Weird Planet Dad is Kurt Russell. 30 seconds. Take.
I know.
Okay, well, give me a second. Give me a second to calm down after that.
You show that man some respect, okay?
Yeah, he was in Fast 8, man.
Oh.
Okay, 30 seconds. Take. You good? You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, go.
There isn't really much dialogue going on in your scene. It all feels very rushed and very sudden and almost unavoidable. They could have gone back and come for him, the entire crew, but he goes and does this thing where he flies like out into space and whatever. With my scene, it's not about the fact that there isn't really anything at stake. It's just the serenity and beauty of it to guide Doctor Strange further on in his like path to the hero. And that propels the character further.
Naomi, go.
Okay, you're saying that there isn't anything at stake, yet that's meant to be before the whole villain thing. Okay. And also, you say that it is rushed and that it's just sudden. That is death in general. It doesn't have this kind of grandiose speech to it. It just happens. Death comes, people go. It's like that, and it is sudden, and that happens to people, and it is emotional because we do really know Yondu well. We don't know the Ancient One.
Time.
I'm ready.
Go on, George.
I'd actually go with Naomi on this because in her first minute, she did the attack of that. It was basically cliched of the mental figure, and that kind of won it for me. I mean, they're both death scenes, but then also the part at the end where she brings the death happens. It's sudden. There is no eloquent speech. That kind of stuck with me because I get that feeling of Doctor Strange that it is very kind of, it just takes like 10 minutes out of the film. It's really quite long. But I thought it was a weird scene to argue against because I don't think many people would have picked the Ancient One, to be fair, but I'll go with Naomi on this. I thought the attack was too strong.
I'm in completely the same boat for exactly the same reasons. The fact that you said that, death is, and the one that really hit me the most was the one in the main argument, which was that the death of the mentor figure is like a very stereotypical story trope, not just in like Marvel, but just like in every movie. So it doesn't really feel anything unique. Tate, if you'd have like argued for the cinematography more, the music and things like that, I know you did mention it once, but if you'd have played up that angle more, I think you may have won this one. But I'm giving this one to Naomi.
And it's a clean sweep again because I completely agree with George and Chris on their points. You won it in the argument and sold it in the rebuttal completely.
That's a first.
Okay, we move on to
the credit scene from Iron Man 1 versus I'm Always Angry.
Before we continue, though, Sheila has another comment. Why didn't anyone pick the "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all" scene? That line is a winner. To
be fair, my favorite Yondu scene's probably when they escape from the prison. And he kills Taserface, the legend himself. Yondu's the best thing about Guardians 2.
Don't get wrong. The line "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all" is great, but it's not a great scene. It's just a line compared to that scene. So that's
but not an iconic moment in whole.
However, it is my favourite line from the film. Just to be clear on that one, I love that bit.
Okay, then we will move on to our next fight. So, post-credit scene from Iron Man 1 against the Avengers Assemble from the Avengers Assemble.
Okay,
so
you ready, guys?
I am vaguely ready. Yes.
Okay.
Question mark.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
back in 2008, a little film called Iron Man came out, and it was a character that no one, unless you were like really dead set into the comic books, you weren't really aware of. And everyone loved that movie. This was back in the time before post-credit scenes were, you know, a tried and tested thing in Marvel. And if you stuck around to the end of the credits, you saw this strange guy in an eye patch, and you go, I recognize that guy, that's Samuel Jackson. With the line, I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative. And in that one line, an entire 1819 movie franchise was born. This showed that Marvel at that time had the confidence in this franchise, what they were building to. They had an end goal. And you can stem everything back from what we've got coming out, Avengers Infinity War, right to this moment here. It alluded to a bigger world out there for Marvel, beyond Iron Man, beyond his control. And from there, you just build up. You introduce Samuel Jackson, which is the perfect casting for that character. I think even before he was cast, like the incarnation of Samuel Jackson was already an established thing in the comic book.
And stop and go.
Your scene is about beginning the Marvel Cinematic Universe and whatnot in terms of the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff, but my scene is what you've waited years for. These are the Avengers meeting up, and it's a fantastic trailer shot. Don't get me wrong, people are going to manage the trailer shot. But with this is what everything's built towards. We're getting for the very first time. This is the test. This is how we're going to build up these characters over the years. Are they going to work together? The moment in which the amazing Alan Silvestri score, thumping, proper classic, with a spinning round shot, each and every one of them ready to fight. You are so in there. You are so pumped. The Iron Man scene, don't get me wrong, it's fine. It's not the first credit scene they've been done in the 80s with films like Ferris Bueller, X-Men, The Last Stand in 2006. Credit scenes have been done in comic book films and other films before. It was a very cool scene looking at what's ahead for this franchise. My scene's really where it was the game change. This was the moment it had everyone ready together to fight. Alongside that, before they unite, you get Hulk coming in from his battle, coming on the motorbike, and he just punches that thing straight away. I'm always angry. So the most iconic lines from the film leading to the most iconic moment of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. The greatest
stop and go.
I'm going to say an element that takes away from your scene is the fact that we knew everything that was coming anyway. From the trailers, they just posted that 360-degree shot in every trailer pretty much. So the dramatic emphasis of that moment when you finally see the film is just taken away because it is a trailer shot. It was made purely for the trailer, and it is a great shot. But beyond that, I mean, the Hulk transforming, we'd seen that in 2008 as well. We've seen Hulk transforming many times, and he just punches an unnamed alien ship in the face, which Iron Man does.
And stop and go.
We see Hulk punch him to kill him because they spend 10 minutes trying to kill him and don't. You're saying, you said, no, everyone's seen in the trailers. Samuel Jackson was cast as Nick Fury years before. He gave the rights to the comics, so he'd be in the Marvel films when they started doing them. They called him in. Everyone knew that would one day happen. My shot, it's a fantastic shot, but the element, it builds you up for the coming fight. Yours builds you up for a couple of films, but as a great moment itself, it's not a fantastic moment. It's a cool scene, but mine is the moment that defines Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is the shot that led to everything further.
And
5 more seconds? Oh. That was a weird one.
Yeah, that was strange.
That's a tough one. I'll go first on that one. That was a tough one between both the argument and the rebuttal. And I'll tell you why, because Chris, you sold me more on the argument, whereas George sold me more on the rebuttal. However, because there were a lot of great points made in both. I'm not going to kind of nitpick and go through all of it. I am going to give the point to Chris on this one purely because of the one very key line you picked up on. That scene set up the 18, 19, 20 films we have so far and beyond. And even George, you alluded to saying, yes, that was a defining moment in the MCU, but you would never have it without the Avengers Initiative being there in the first place. And that all goes back to Iron Man and that one post-credit scene. The post-credit scene that arguably defined post-credit scene. So, point to Chris.
May I please go next?
Yeah.
I want to give this point to George, and the main reason is that he basically attacked Chris's points where they stood, and he defended his own points very well. He attacked Chris's point saying they already knew about the whole Samuel L. Jackson coming in and stuff like that. And it's, yeah, I can't really put it into words at the moment, but give me a second. But I'm definitely giving the point to George. I'm just... Sorry.
Ooh, tie break for Naomi. That's not going to be a clean sweep. Where is this going?
Oh, man. I think you lost it for me, George, when you said one line in your main argument, which was I know this is a glorified trailer shot and people are going to shit on me for it being a trailer shot. You kind of lost it there because that's what it is. It's just posing for the trailer. And you admitting that basically wavered it to Chris for me.
See, I would say against that, even though it's a trailer shot, it's still a very good defining moment.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Like, wait, do we have everyone's arguments locked in?
Yeah, we have everyone's arguments locked in.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, you need that scene in there. You need to see all the characters lined up together. Like, if that wasn't in the movie, I think fans would fucking riot.
Nah, they can have them all in different places across the city all at once. And they never actually fully meet together.
Wait for the new film where they're just doing it around a building and it's like 10 minutes long.
So it's going to be a whole film. That's all it is. It's just showing all of them just like, yeah, we're together. Anyone want brunch? Yeah, let's go.
When they pose for the circle, like they've just lost the last Infinity Stone.
To be fair, I'm bringing the party to you.
Imagine if they call the final film, the next one, Avengers, Romancing the Stone.
Avengers, Reassemble.
Well, we've got Michael Douglas in it already, so like you're halfway there, man. Right, so we move on to the next fight. So this is, what's the line from this movie?
The Did You Know from Civil War versus Puny God from Avengers. Is this me versus Naomi or me?
It is you versus Naomi. Let me just
hell.
Okay, time is on.
Okay.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Mission report, December 16th, 1991. You spend a good 2 hours trying to figure out what the hell he means. And boy, do you get it. We kind of hint at the fact that Iron Man's, Captain America's mates killed him and he knows. But the moment in which Iron Man watches his parents die on the screen, with the geezer standing opposite him with his best mate already knowing the truth, and it's the simple words, did you know? The goosebumps going down your spine, that individual moment, knowing this is years and years of friendship that is about to be ripped apart. This is going to change everything that's to come. And it delivered. And we just see Iron Man just look up and just punch him in the face. It is without doubt, yes, you need context within the scene. This is important of it. However, this moment itself is something, this is one of the best moments. In Civil War, well, we already know they're having a fight, but it hasn't escalated. This escalates to the point that goes, okay, well, how are they going to get back down from this? And I feel that there was nothing perfect. The way that Robert Downey Jr. is even acting in this scene is one of his best moments. For the one time I've not seen Iron Man cocky, the scene is very vulnerable.
And go.
Well, if you want to talk about vulnerable, you got nothing better than Tom Hiddleston, who has this grandiose character of Loki, just showing off everything. And it's just, even though it's only for like about a minute or so, it's still very iconic. You still get people quoting it to this day. You get people like making food animations of this, of just, I am a god and I will not be bullied by. Like I said, 1 minute, just something solid in there. All you need is just Loki and the Hulk. It's just a classic scene that, again, it's still replicated and remembered to this day. I don't know what about Civil War that will still be remembered apart from the airport scene. True, this is good character development, but at the same time, it's not something that people are going to look back on and be like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. I feel like I've lost.
Stop.
Time in.
Go.
Sure. Right, the problem with Puny God is it's a fantastic 15-20 seconds. However, once you've seen it, you're done and dusted with it. There's nothing more to take. Loki's being arrogant. We've seen him do that for 2 films already. Loki gets battered. They then repeat the stroke in Thor Ragnarok, which is actually done better in that film due to some more character development. However, going back to my scene, this is the greatest moment. Yes, your moment works as standalone 10 seconds, but my moment, this is the best Marvel Cinematic Universe moment. This moment has been building across a film. This moment has been built for years.
And stop.
Within it.
And go.
I just feel like with watching your moment, I was just like, Tony is smarter than this. True, it's never good to see who it is when you have someone that has killed your parents coming from someone who has something similar. But, like, they know the common enemy. And Tony is smarter than that. He knows who to go for instead of just punching his best friend that he has known and knowing that Bucky was under this kind of...
And stop.
I'm going to go first on this one. I'm gonna go with George
I
on
don't
this one because I think Naomi, you started out strong, but I think there was only so much mileage
Yeah.
to your pick. Like, it is a great moment, but I
I
think
had to go against this moment, didn't I?
yeah, I mean, that's just the look of the draw, but I mean, I think you'd kind of exhausted your argument after like the first 30 seconds of the first minute. Like, I didn't feel like there was much else to say. George, like, you picked a moment where there is so much going on in terms of character and, you know, pathos and like what it's been built to at that moment. So I've got to give it to George on this one, although it was very well argued, Naomi.
I tried my best.
I'm also going to, give this to George. I feel like he had just a stronger argument overall.
Yeah, unfortunately, Naomi, clean sweep there. You even admitted it by the end of your opening argument that you felt you lost it. George, you need to stop saying this is the most pivotal MCU moment.
It wastes seconds saying Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's so annoying, isn't it?
Yes,
it's because I don't want to say Marvel because then I'm lying to myself.
The most pivotal moment. In every moment is the most pivotal moment. Nothing's the most pivotal moment. Keep that in mind going forward. However, you are going forward. Clean sweep to George on that one.
Okay, so we're
Next
on to the final fight of round
we
one.
have Chris and the Winter Soldiers refusing to fight versus King and Jobu versus T'Challa.
Okay.
Who's on the stopwatch?
I think it's going to have to be you, Tate, because...
I'm in that fight, you idiot.
Oh, sorry, I thought... I just know how... Sorry, I just know how because it's Black Panther.
I can do it, guys.
Yeah, go on.
Is it a minute, right? Chris, you're up first, beginning in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, this is arguably one of the most emotional moments in any Marvel Cinematic Universe moments, especially Winter Soldier. This is the culmination of this friendship. This is what everything's been leading to. And it's absolutely heartbreaking. And I don't talk about the music very much in the Marvel films because there doesn't seem to be like any consistency with them. But most notably, the music in this moment is absolutely amazing. There's few lines of dialogue here that are offset between them, and it completely sums up their individual character, their agenda, and this rift, this divide that's been created by the two. You've got the moment where Captain America says, "You're my friend," and casts his shield down. It's a great shot. Just the iconography you can get with that shield in like any situation, but just when he throws it from the aircraft carrier, you just see it fall down. And then the Winter Soldier says, "You're my mission," and just proceeds to like just wail on him. That is everything you see in these characters, and you just see how far Winter Soldier has fallen through years of torture and just like mental anguish, and the fact that Captain America remains strong.
Tate, 3, 2, 1, go.
These are two fight scenes, really. It's a one-sided fight scene on one side, and you could argue that it's also a semi-one-sided fight scene on the other. This is just a combination from this one. In this fight scene alone, you get to see a level playing field, a completely level playing field between two people who both have their own claim to this throne. Now, I love Killmonger. I think he's one of the best Marvel villains since Loki, and he really does show off his talents here during the fight scene. By starting off with his coat on, and he said before that he marks himself and gets killed. He finally takes it off, and you see how deadly he really is. And that really becomes the threat. And it comes to the end where we have such a kind of big moment where Forrest Whitaker's character steps in and says, "I won't allow this to continue," gets killed, and then supposedly we have Black Panther killed as well. That's so mind-bogglingly dramatic. It's amazing.
Chris, 30 seconds. 3, 2, 1, go.
I would argue that fight in Black Panther at that moment with the character of Killmonger, we haven't got to know everything about the character at that point. So at that point in the film, he's still a very one-note character. We don't get that great flashback with him, which fleshes his character out until after this moment. So it feels very tried and tested in all the Marvel movies. My fight has the edge, I think, because you do have that pathos with the character of Winter Soldier. You understand the character more, and it's just heartbreaking to see these two friends become enemies. The fact that he says, like, "We'll finish your mission because I'm with you to the end," like, friend, like,
I'd say that line alone is extremely cheesy, and I know that the fight scene overall isn't cheesy. I know the appeal isn't cheesy, but the delivery of it, in its sense, is very Americanized and cheesy. You're looking for a brutal fight scene. You want a brutal fight scene, and you're looking at Killmonger absolutely beating the shit into T'Challa on equal terms. That's what I want to see from a fight scene. I don't want to see kind of an emotional fight scene as it played out in Winter Soldier. It didn't play out well in my mind. I feel like there was better fight scenes.
Hey!
Stop.
I have never heard George raise his voice that loud.
That's not me raising my voice, believe me. That was more of a noise. Right. I'm undecided. Is someone ready?
I'll go first. It's quite strong. I'm going to give this one to Tate. Chris, I'm not going to tell you what you could have said because I'm going to wait and see if someone brings up this point later on. But there's a particular knockout punch that I believe you left out of your rebuttal. You argued your scene well. This was a hard one to choose between. I'm not going to lie. But the only problem with your scene, it is a very, and Tate brings up, it's a very set up scene. You know really what's going to happen more so than Black Panther. Both are there for a reason. You both know almost what way it's going to go and why. I just believe on the arguments alone that Tate had the edge on this one, although you did well.
Okay, that's cool.
Naomi, you ready, or do you want me to go mine?
Go before me. I'm still trying to think.
Right. I thought, I'm not gonna lie, this is a terrible argument for both of you. Chris, you could have wiped the floor of Black Panther. I thought you were going to bring up Bane down at Rises. You didn't attack it not nearly enough, knowing that you know that Black Panther is going to come in like 10 minutes later and be fine. There was no attack on the fight scene, whereas Tate, he didn't do a very good attack on you, but it was more of an attack, and I don't think either of you defended it enough. So it was kind of like, well, what was less mediocre, and that was Tate's. Sorry, don't take offense.
George, stop giving everyone else ideas to attack my argument.
I'm not. I'm just pointing out.
Mine's out.
Chris is out. Chris is out.
Go on, Naomi.
It wouldn't have mattered, my opinion, but I would have agreed with George. It was kind of a little bit, not much of an argument from both sides, I will be honest, but I feel like in terms of defending, Tate had a little bit more going for him with trying to defend his point.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I've only seen Black Panther once, and I was genuinely really struggling to remember all the ins and outs of that moment, so that was on me. Tate, you did say one brilliant thing, though. This is off the record now. In the fight, you said, it feels very Americanized. I'm like, he's Captain America, like.
I know.
He's the epitome of America.
I know, but you want to bring
It made
gravitas
it in
to the
America,
scene.
so you can't get more American than that.
Right.
Okay, that's the first round done. I'm going to go to the toilet before round 2.
Right, so while Tate has a tactical, if you look at the big screen now, you can see that we have round 2 at the ready. We have Captain America's propaganda montage versus the car scene from Spider-Man Homecoming, the airport scene versus the Winter Soldier car chase scene, Yondu's death versus Samuel Jackson's Hello, Iron Man's Did You Know looking down upon Black Panther versus Njobu in their bout for the throne.
Indeed, I think I Know versus Did You Know versus Black Panther will be interesting, but I think going with Avengers Initiative versus Yondu's Death is going to be the hardest one to choose between.
They're very different. It's hard.
But it's hard.
Well, that's what you've got to bring. You've got to bring your own game. You've got to bring your best argument. Well, potentially, because you
Have
might
you
get to the
seen
final.
me in this so far? I can't.
You've got a win.
Yeah, a win.
Everyone's got a win so
Compared
far.
to everyone else.
Everyone, there's 2 left of Tate, 2 left of me, 3 left of Chris, and 1 Naomi. So the minute it's going all right. However, Chris is one of them rarities where he's going to be arguing in the next 3 fights.
Yes. Oh wait, one after the other.
Yes.
Unlucky.
In the ropes.
They're always good fun though. It's about getting street together.
Yeah. Now that Tate's returned, we have our halftime special of his rendition of the Star Spangled Man with a Plan in your own time, Tate.
None. So, I'm assuming George has already shown everyone the sheet of who went through and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I completely forgot. Can you show it again?
Right. I'll just say it because I can't probably press screenshot. Captain America propaganda versus Vulture. Airport scene versus Winter Soldier car chase. Yondu death versus Sam Jackson's Hello. Did You Know versus Fight for the Throne. Intense.
Intense indeed. Okay, so you guys need a timer, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's just ready, isn't it? Wait, who's first? I haven't looked into it. Oh, it's you.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes, I think.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
There was another aspect to this montage which I didn't talk about earlier, which I think gives us the edge over the Vulture scene, in that it is a very silly scene, and the costume's silly. Obviously, that's harkening back to the original appearance of the costume. And also, this had to sort of cement itself into the audience's modern collective consciousness of the character of Captain America. He is notoriously a very silly character and was definitely a product of his time, and that is what this scene shows. So it's important to the character and the rest of the MCU because, you know, you'd had Iron Man, you'd had Hulk, you'd had Thor. Everything rested on the success of Captain America for the Avengers to be a success, and thankfully it was. And I think this scene helped establish that because the character, you know, had been shown in films before with the likes of Red Brown. I know he did 2 movies, which are very, very silly and enjoyable films. But this showed a different side to it. It took that silly quality but flipped it on its head and showed that he is like a puppet of the government and of the military at this stage, and he wants to be more than that. The character has to become more.
And stop. And go.
You're right. You're saying he is a puppet of the government, and we know that. But when you look at the film of Captain America itself, there are so many better moments. The relationship with him and Agent Carter, even the scene where the soldier's looking down at him, he does something about it. Yours is a scene that is perfect for what the Captain America film is, but it is by far not a memorable scene or an important scene. That it's just a scene that we know he's going to become this soldier. So what doesn't he do before then? However, you get to my scene, we already know that the Vulture is a massive threat to Spider-Man. He's beat him in 2 fights before, and here we have working him out in the backseat of this car, taking his daughter to prom with just the simple threat, you know, I will kill absolutely everybody that you love. That is a terrifying moment, whereas Captain America, you don't get any kind of sense of moment within the scene. It's like, okay, here's nonsense of the government. What's he doing about it? Absolutely nothing yet, because you picked a scene where he doesn't do anything. Whereas mine, you literally have the protagonist and antagonist sharing the screen, and one of them is terrified, and you feel terrified with him, whereas yours is kind of like, come on, let's just get to the action already. We don't need to see this. 30 seconds is all you needed from this. It keeps going and going and going.
And go.
You just used the line we already knew, that we know that Vulture is an established villain in this film. Oh, look, here he is doing something villainous again. There's not really anything different. It's a great performance from Michael Keaton, not taking that away from him. But in terms of the context of the scene, it doesn't really do much else than hasn't already been done for that character. The Star-Spangled Man with a Plan is important in that it's homaging previous comic books and the history of the character, but it's also doing something new. It's taking the character of Captain America and making him accessible for a modern audience to take him into Avengers.
And go.
I disagree. He's done something villainous in a fight. This gets to a personal level. This is a private level, which automatically ups the ante and the stakes on show. You're seeing, if you look at it with him dancing girls, being all smart play, it kind of looks like, well, I've kind of seen that in Iron Man 2 before, dancing with all the pretty girls behind him. We know he's a propaganda symbol. That's why it's called Captain America, but we did not need a 3-minute montage of him. Whereas mine, you needed this to go from a rubbish, boring villain to, oh my God, this is personal. This is a villain that's now going to do something different that we didn't know was going to happen. Whereas yours, we know everything that's going to happen immediately.
And stop.
A very weird fight.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing to be fighting.
These fights are polarizing. It's ridiculous.
It's like best Marvel moment. Then you could have like best drama moment, best like fun moment.
Yeah,
like,
no.
so much to the MCU. But yeah, I've stalled. Has anyone got their decisions?
I'm gonna go with Chris in this one. Take it from the angle of him being a puppet, and the fact that, George, you've basically used the same argument 2 rounds in a row of the fact that he used that line, I will kill everyone you love.
Did I say that in the last round?
You did say that first round. So.
I literally couldn't remember.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Chris had a bit more fresh material for the argument. The rebuttal, I felt, was better than your argument, George. And I'm actually going to split it on this one. I'll give it to George purely on the rebuttal alone, though, Chris, you made a hell of a lot of good points. This was a very tough one.
Yeah.
So it's split down the middle, Naomi. You have the decider.
Oh, great. Oh, man. Because you both have really good moments. Like really good arguments for each point. Oh, man, it is really difficult. Oh man, I think just from the argument, especially the battle. I think I will give it to George.
Ooh.
But it was very hard.
I will say it was very hard to guess that scene because I never imagined someone picking that scene.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
yeah,
Michael Keaton goes through. I'm fine with that because Michael Keaton's face is just like continuing on the board, so this is all good.
I mean, Michael Keaton's in the top 3 Marvel villains so far. It's not really much of an achievement given the quality of the villains in the Marvel films.
Ironically, most of the best Marvel villains are actually in the Netflix TV shows, which we haven't included in this one. I guess we should have said that because it's only sort of like semi-tied into the MCU.
Yeah, there's so many choices that you could go for.
Well, you've got Kilgrave, you've got Kingpin, like Cottonmouth from...
You could count Punisher, I guess, for part of it.
Yeah, anti-hero, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Michael Keaton goes through. It's not even that moment from Spider-Man Homecoming anymore. It's just purely
Michael Keaton. It's just, the thing is, I mean,
if he turns around for his next argument, just walks on, just goes to the mic, Michael Keaton, then puts it down for the next 59 seconds.
He probably could. It was when the Oscars, when he had his Oscar speech in his hand, he had to put it away.
Oh yeah,
I felt so bad for him. We'll talk about Mark Keaton in the next round. In the meantime, we have not Infinity War, Civil War. I've got them the wrong way around. That happened like all of last year, didn't it?
Yes.
We've got Civil War's airport fight scene versus the Winter Soldier's car chase, which is also Chris versus Tate again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, does this mean I need the timer again?
Yes.
I guess so. Right, gentlemen. Give me 1 second to get the app. Sorry, I'm prepared. Right, Chris, you're up first. In 3, 2, 1, go.
We're arguing best Marvel Cinematic Universe moment here, and I think that the airport fight scene out of these two scenes is definitely the most iconic in what it did for this universe. True, we'd set all these characters up before this point, but seeing just an all-out fight between all these characters, each one getting their hero moment, each one getting some time to shine, that is what you want as a comic book fan. This is what you've been waiting to see throughout all of these years. There's actual tension, there's actual stakes that have been established for this fight. You know why everyone's teamed up and why they've divided in the way that they have. I only talked about it a little bit before, but Spider-Man, this was the first time that we actually got to see Spider-Man alongside all of these characters. It was that vague hope as any superhero fan, like we're never going to see that day where we get Spider-Man alongside Iron Man and Captain America. Guess what? They made it work and it's awesome. They set his scene up earlier on. We know exactly the new take on this Spider-Man character, and just to see him swinging with all these characters and having his own moments, it's a great thing to see. It's more important.
3, 2, 1, go.
You're pulling your punches. I can't take this scene as seriously when you actually step back for a second and take the scene as a whole. Your scene, none of them really want to kill each other at that stage. There isn't really anything at stake. They're all willing to harm each other to the point where they can stop Captain America and Winter Soldier from getting to the plane and jet, stuff like that. But Vision could come in and kill all of them. Scarlet Witch could have crushed Tony multiple times in various different ways and killed any of the characters at any point. I don't feel like there's as much stakes as a scene where the car is literally blown up with Nick Fury inside and there's an army like crawling onto his car at the very start where he is... I mean, he breaks his elbow at the very, very start of the scene. That's actual drama given to actual context. With your scene, I can't take it as seriously when I know that they're not taking it seriously, or as serious as they could be. It's an iconic moment for sure, but does it really pull up to something that is gritty, hard, and feels real?
3, 2, 1, go.
None of them want to fight each other because they're all friends. None of them really want this. They're just having to do it based on their own agendas at that moment, and that's what makes it compelling. You've got a great car chase, and that's it. If we were arguing a moment now where Nick Fury died at the end of that car chase, then you might have more grounds for an argument. As it is, it's just an action beat in that first act just because we need one. My action beat is actually integral to the story. You take my scene out of the movie, you've lost your movie right there because it's such an important piece of that film. I mean...
Yeah, I'm not saying take it out of the movie. What I'm saying is make it feel like the characters actually want to hurt each other. Because it really doesn't feel like they don't. And not all of them are friends. For most of it, they're enemies. And they could actually act like they were enemies in the film if they actually put in any effort. With my scene, it's a beat-for-beat action scene. But it feels gritty, it feels real, and it feels like a key moment when you're introducing the Winter Soldier, a key character for the films to come. What can I say?
Stop. Okay. I'm processing. Has anyone made their mind up?
That was a tough one.
was a very-
I made my mind up. Quite simply, on the argument, on the rebuttal, unfortunately, Chris, I've got to give it to Tate on both. I know he quite literally, you were saying how, I know you get good points with his argument with his scene being not as pivotal as that airport scene, more of a setup. However, the key line there of you're pulling your punches, again, is almost the same with the argument, and Tate much more offensive and actually argued his point, which, yes, I believe it's a weaker scene, but he argued the point better,
Yeah.
and I'm going to give the point to Tate on that one.
Okay.
I have made my mind up. I'm giving it to Chris because Tate did the phenomenal attack. So, you know, these guys are friends. They're not pulling punches. Then Chris's defense of saying they didn't really want to hurt each other at all, followed up with the attack on, you know, would have meant more if Samuel L. Jackson had died at the end of that scene. I kind of got that grasp more, so I thought, Chris edged it very narrowly. There was a very good fight from Tate, though, against that scene.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 1-1.
Naomi, you have a choice again.
It falls to you again, Naomi, I'm afraid.
Well, luckily with this one, I had made my mind up, and it is with Tate, because he did mention the fact that they don't want to hurt each other. You know, that they aren't out for blood, that they are good friends, so they wouldn't want to kill each other. They only want to maim or seriously injure. But with the Nick Fury scene, is quite tense in that moment, because this is a character that you're familiar with. This is a character that you do want to see get out alive, and yeah, I think Tate argued that better.
Okay.
Sorry.
Through again, another one of mine is knocked out. What is happening? I'm on the ropes.
And next, that's probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest. To be fair, I think all the favourites have gone out, haven't they?
Everyone's number one pick. No, yours is still in, George.
I haven't done the round yet. Next up, Chris, you ready for round 3?
I don't think I am.
Naomi and Yondu's death versus Chris and the credit scene.
This is where I'm going to lose. Yay!
Okay.
I don't know.
3, 2, 1, go.
Was it me?
Whoa. We'll restart, okay? Naomi, you're going first. 3, 2,
Okay.
1, go.
So with post-credit scene, you said in your original argument that this was the first of the films to do it. How many audience members would have stayed at that time for the first ever, trying to set up everything? How many would have stayed in that cinema to watch it? I'm guessing about less than 20%. So not many people would have known this. And it's not part of the original story. So if it was meant to be part of it, it would have been included in the end still, instead of after the credits. Whilst Yondu's death, it's needed for the story. It's needed for this character development of Star-Lord, because this is losing his parental figure, especially after that very poignant moment of he may be your father, but he ain't your daddy. Just that coming together and just realizing that not all family has to be blood related.
And stop.
Yeah.
And stop. Stop.
I'm stopping.
Okay, ready? 1, go.
Okay, so the fact that you said that not many people would have originally seen it, that kind of adds to the special... Are we good?
What are you doing?
Is Tate out of sync?
I think Tate might be out of sync. This is going to be very, very awkward.
Right, I'm going to grab the timer. Let me get the... Right, Chris, restart. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so you said that like not many people would have seen this scene on initial release. That... have against it is that throughout that scene, you just want it to kind of be an emotional, serious scene. But again,
Stop.
constantly. Oh wow!
Naomi, 3, 2, 1, attack.
Wow.
You said that if people would have cared, they would go out to see it. You said it's a special scene, that it's all where it started. They would have seen the film originally and then got it on DVD release. But if you're talking about initial cinema release, you would have had that in the actual film. It's not in the actual film. They just tagged it on at the end to be like, oh, it's on this massive thing now. Is it time yet?
Yeah, now done.
Okay.
Before we get to votes, Tate, what's your audio like?
What was that?
Are you all fine and stuff?
Yeah, I'm here.
That sounded sorry. It's just because it went that weird thing, Chris. Right. Has anyone made their mind up? I kind of have.
Wait, have I got a 30-second rebuttal?
Oh no, you do. Sorry.
Please.
Wait, hold on.
George, can I just make a point, because I was timing Chris's first one. You only got up to 30 seconds.
Yeah, so this is all my bad. I thought Chris had a rebuttal.
Can I just get like a minute now then, like just to make up those 30 seconds?
No.
Have another 30 because that's all my bad. I thought.
I've only had a minute then. If I've only had 30 seconds originally and 30 seconds now, that's bullshit.
I'm
Have
the
another 30.
impartial one. I am not fighting. Give him a full minute.
This is what.
We need equal time on this.
No, that means you've had a minute total.
I'm the impartial one. I'm not fighting.
Oh no, he's only had 30. Yeah, give him a minute. Sorry, I'm
Give him a minute.
like.
I'm not fighting. I'm the impartial one. Give him a minute.
Right, it's a minute. Go. I've got this all lost in my head. Carry on.
Okay, but
yeah, you want it to be an emotional scene. You want it to take its time, take a breather, and let that moment sink in. But again, in classic Guardians of the Galaxy way, they just pepper it with jokes, and it just completely removes what could have been a great Marvel moment. Yes, the actual act of him dying is integral and is important, but they just completely stop it dead in its tracks with the jokes, and it doesn't match in terms of the mood they're trying to go for. It's very confusing. My moment is important to the MCU because it started the foundations. That was the foundation stone block of what has now blossomed into a very lucrative business for Disney. And you look back at that moment, it couldn't have been tagged at the end of the film because it would have completely have ruined the flow of that movie. You want to end it on I Am Iron Man because the film is Iron Man. The post-credit scene is purely for supplementary material, which will enlarge the world, will set you up for future things. And now people must have sorted it out because now people stick around for the end credits. Like, even when I went to see it, there was word of mouth that there was something at the end of the movie to set it up. So people were aware of it. And now it's just became a tried and tested thing. When I see a Marvel movie, I see people, the entire cinema's pretty much staying in for the entire credits now. And it all goes back to this scene here. Yours, as I said, great moment in the film itself, but it is hampered by the clash of tones, whereas mine's consistent with the MCU, and it helped blossom and start the MCU. So that's why I think mine's more of the best Marvel Cinematic Universe moment. Am I going to have like another 20 seconds or something?
I don't know. Who was timing that one?
Oh, shit. I thought someone was timing it.
I thought Tate was timing it.
Dude!
I wasn't timing it. Did I say go?
George, you said go. I thought you would.
Really? Yeah, same.
George!
It's all gone.
I'm not used.
Both of you!
I thought I was talking for way longer than a minute there, guys. Like, really.
I was thinking, hang on.
I
George,
thought someone else was timing it. This is why
It's void. We move on.
this is why I don't do the stopwatch.
When you said go, I thought you were timing, man.
Yeah.
I thought
agreed.
someone else had it because I messed up. Because I thought Tate had a timer too.
Absolute idiots.
Complete and utter stopwatch gate.
Stopwatch gate. Oh,
Where do we stand on this? Do we give like? Because I think I was talking for way more than a minute there. Do we give Naomi like an extra 20 seconds, or do we keep this?
You time this.
Do you want me to time it, George?
Please.
Can we trust you with a timer ever again?
No, this is why I actually used it.
Okay, are you ready?
Wait, how long is this for?
You're gonna get 20 seconds.
20 seconds. Okay.
George will time this.
No, I'm timing this.
Fine,
I'll
Tate will
leave
time
that to
this.
George.
You have
Okay.
20 seconds.
Naomi, 3, 2, 1, go.
You argue that it would have ruined the flow of the film. I argue that it wouldn't have, because then you'd have the Iron Man and then go into it. You wouldn't need to have waited so long for the credits to then have that scene and have basically the majority of the cinema leave. Yondu's moment, they knew it was poignant, so they knew to keep it in the film. They knew that people had to see it. And I don't think there were that many jokes that destroyed the tone of it. I feel like with Guardians of the Galaxy 2, it kept a good tone.
Okay. So,
a completely botched fight, but hopefully we got some equality there towards the end in terms of the time.
Are we all clear on everything that's just taken place?
Yeah, I messed up. Does anyone want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first on this one. Chris, you won this for me on one line and one line alone. The film had to end on I am Iron Man. The setup afterwards is the key point. There was a complete botch in terms of timing, I'm not going to lie, so the arguments were a little out of sync and the rebuttals were out of sync, so kind of threading it all together. But from what I picked apart and what Naomi, you argued very well. Well done to make it to semis, but I'm going to give it to Chris on this one. His points were just a little bit more concise. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Yondu's death, and I think it's a fantastic scene, but the arguments made, give it to Chris.
I would also give it to Chris. I thought there wasn't enough made on Yondu's death, and the I am Iron Man line was also a big part because you kind of do wonder, well, he just ended on that, had to end on that. And also, I didn't actually think Yondu's death was the best scene. His funeral actually was. However, I thought Chris had an overall stronger argument, even though that's probably my fault for not.
I didn't know if we were including the funeral scene within his.
I didn't know, but I just
wanted. They're separate scenes.
Yeah,
they're completely separate scenes.
That's why I wanted to say the funeral scene was.
Yeah, no, Chris, you completely disarmed all of Naomi's attacks with one word, or well, a sentence really. I am Iron Man. So that would be a clean sweep.
Awesome. So
okay. I never get to semis anyway, so
I feel bad because like the timings may have been a tad unfair on that one, but
that was all my bad.
That's all right. We'll move on. We've got the last fight then. So this is Did You Know versus the Black Panther T'Challa fight. T'Challa. 1 minute on the clock. Georgia up first. Time starts now.
This is arguments for the greatest Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm saying it again. Why am I? Anyway, like I said earlier, the whole scene's building up to this moment, and this is seeing vulnerable Tony Stark for the first time. So I mentioned earlier, it's a petty argument. These guys are having a petty fallout over something minor about Bucky. This completely changed the entire game. Iron Man finding out it's his mom, and he even says, "But he killed my mom." And that's something that is crucial within this entire scene. He's finding out that Captain America, one of his mates, is defending someone that's killed his own mum. He has every right to then suddenly punch him and go for it and have ensue. This is civil war. This is the definition. We've had the airplane moment, but this is what they mean. These are turning the two main guys, Team Iron Man, Team Cap, months of debate and build-up into this singular moment. No one had any idea that this was coming. This was the biggest twist of it all. That Iron Man would find out and change everything. Yours is a absolutely fantastic scene, and I will absolutely nod at that in my follow-up scene. But I'm also going to play this. This is also a massive scene down to Chris Evans' performance. He's got to pick between his best friend and his kind of superhero best friend, and it's such a hard choice. This goes to the character of...
1 minute, Naomi, go.
Tate, it's me.
Oh, I keep doing that. Why do I keep doing that? I said George originally. Now I said Naomi.
Now.
My bad. 1 minute, Tate. Go.
Okay, your moment is the blink at the start of the fight scene to ensue. It's a good start-off point, but it only builds from there and the tension gets higher. In fact, the line, "But he killed my mum," comes in the following part of the scene where he's actually fighting. Your moment is merely just the "did you know," shock, horror, and then a single punch to start off the fight. With my scene, it's the entire thing. It's the build-up of the fight. It's the tension beforehand. It's seeing these two fighting on a level playing field. This is Black Panther without the Black Panther suit to make him what he is. This is him fighting not just for himself, his own pride. This is him fighting for his society, for his nation. And this is a key moment in the film where you see an outsider who sure has claim, but has very, very little. We still don't know the full backstory, but hopefully once he goes and defeats T'Challa and in a brutal fight, brilliantly choreographed fight, in a brilliant choreographed way, we can finally see what that follows on to.
30 seconds, George. Go.
Your fight scene's irrelevant. You've built up a villain. They're not going to have him lose to the protagonist halfway through the film. No, of course the villain has to win the first fight to make it up for the later scenes. It's a parallel of Batman versus Bane, even with the waterfall included. There is no, all yours is big up a villain, which is great, but we know he's going to have his downfall. We know that, not Captain America, Black Panther's going to come back and save the day because it's Black Panther who's already seen the Avengers trailer. Without your fight, it's important to the story, but it's so obvious from the first punch, you know exactly what's going to happen. It's boring, move on, let's just get to the ending. My scene is absolutely phenomenal. He said it's the blink. No, this is the dramatic moment.
30 seconds, take, go.
Your fight is irrelevant. We all saw that they were on contracts for further on films. What was the point in that argument? This fight is phenomenal. It shows off some tribal fighting, which we haven't really seen in any of the other films previous. But not only that, but there is tension there. There is key tension there. And this is the explosion. This isn't the pulling the trigger. This is the actual bang that goes off. And I'd rather see that than seeing the start of what was to follow. It's a brilliant scene.
And time.
Oh,
Before I make my decision, Phil, I'm going to defer to you in case you know, but is the "did you know" line during the fight, or does that precede?
No, it's before the fight.
No, the did you know? No, the did you know? What I said was the did you know. It was before the fight. The actual, but he killed my mum was during the fight.
I thought it's as Captain America. He says he killed my mum, then he punches him. That's
what
I thought.
It is just before the punch because that's what triggers the punch. And if you allow me to go, I actually do have my choice as well.
Okay. If you want to go first.
Yep, it's quite simple. Tate, you fought well, but you put a lot of emphasis just on the fight and how the fight went. Yes, you put in a lot of the backstory and what's to come. However, George's scene is one of the most emotional moments in the MCU, and I feel he actually argued his point better for why his scene should be there, not just why it's better. And I'm going to give it to George on that one.
Naomi, do you want to go next?
I'm going to have to agree. I'm giving it to George. I think what sold it for me was actually Tate saying we already knew that they have a contract later. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to make like kiss and make out and all that, because he could have it, I don't know, with Infinity War, because we don't know how they're going to get back together and everything. But in terms of just keeping it within the story, it's still an emotional moment. I think George argued for that well. So, over to you, bud.
Tate, you almost swayed me when you actually mentioned that contract thing, because that usually does take away a lot of the tension for me anyway when I see these films where they've already announced so many films down the line. But taking that out of it, the rest of the argument, it's going to be a clean sweep, went to George for me. He just explained why it was more emotional. It seemed like there was more meat to his argument rather than just there's tension. And then that was it. If you'd have developed that more, maybe you would have won it. But no, I'm going to give it to George on this one.
And with that, we have a semi-final setup of Vulture versus Winter Soldier and Samuel L. Jackson versus Iron Man. Winter Soldier really ruining those close-ups, you know. But yeah, what is it? George versus Tate again, and Chris versus George.
Wow. This is going to be a really tough fight because I, you know, not to like put myself down, but I feel like I've exhausted the entire argument at this point for a certain pick on that board. But I'll do my best. But that's not yet. So, do we have any predictions moving ahead, or?
It's been pretty hard because every fight's been different. And there's been almost no parallels.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I'm enjoying this. I'm the impartial one for this one. I've had a very busy few days and then a chance to actually prepare, so I couldn't really be a fighter in this one. It's interesting to look at the arguments, look at the scenes, and look at what's happening. I don't want to really give too much predictions because I don't actually want to influence too much what's going to happen going forward. Keaton versus Jackson for the fight will be hilarious, but we'll see where we're going to go on this one.
And just as like an offside thing, like while we're at the halftime, what's our favorite MCU movie out of all the ones that have come out so far?
Winter Soldier. Followed by Civil War, followed by Black Panther. Top three.
It's a top one. And actually, two of those are my least favorite films. I have to say, I love Winter Soldier, but Civil War didn't really have an ending, and I can't get along with it. So sorry, I don't know. I mean, for me personally, top MCU film as it stands, just because I've seen it quite a lot recently, is Ragnarok, just because it's just so brilliant in so many areas. I'm surprised that there isn't the final bridge fight scene on here, because that's one of my favorite MCU moments of all time. Is Thor with Valkyrie, Loki, Korg, with the Immigrant Song. I mean, how could someone not pick that moment? It's so good. So yes, that personally is my favorite MCU film of the moment. But I feel Infinity War coming around the corner will top that. But we'll see.
And we've had some comments coming in. I think people are a little bit out of sync with us. I think they've just started tuning in. Dave's actually mentioned in the comments, he's put, yes, Vulture scene. I'm not sure if he's caught up with us or if he's just watched its first victory. But yeah, no, keep the comments coming in. Let us know your predictions. Let us know some of your other favourite Marvel moments that sadly didn't make it into this list. With all that being said, I think we'll move on to the fight itself.
Semi-final time. Vulture versus Winter Soldier.
This is gonna be a tough.
That would be a duel, wouldn't it?
Right, are we all ready?
Who's on the stopwatch?
I'll be on the stopwatch. So, George, 1 minute, go.
Like I said, Spider-Man Homecoming is trash. I haven't really talked much about Michael Keane's performance. I've talked much about the character. But this is a scene where if you have an average actor or someone that can't really act or have any emotion, this would mean nothing. But you can see it in his eyes in this entire scene. Every single word he said, he is saying with perfection to what the character is doing, as well as progressing this moment forwards. If you had an average actor taking on this scene, you'd laugh saying, well, why has he delivered that speech? He's terrible. But no, they've actually hired an actor. You can tell this was probably one of the integral moments of the entire script, was nailing this scene down, which is exactly what they did. Credits Tom Holland. He looks like he's about to crap himself in the back of the seat, and you can totally understand why. It would only be a blessing to have witnessed that, but the entire moment comes through the performance in this one individual scene, and I think that's something that, especially Spider-Man, but the MCU hasn't had, is these individual character performances that push you to the next level rather than repeating the same thing. He's a villain which he differs one scene from the other, but this is the very first time you see the crazy psycho with the intensity to be a villain and to be one of the great ones.
Tate, 1 minute, go.
I wouldn't say he looked like he was crapping himself. He looked pretty blank, and I'd say it's probably the poorest acting from him throughout the entire film. And I defend Tom Holland to the end of the earth, but that scene is one of the weakest that he's done. And it's a conversation scene, so you need at least one of the other parties to at least have an emotion. With my scene, let's put it into perspective. You've got a man versus an army in the streets. You then follow it up by introducing a villain / anti-hero that comes in and has an impact on the entire films. This is the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. almost being killed and only just escaping with his life and being introduced to the threat in the film. The threat's already been introduced in Spider-Man Homecoming. This is the threat being realized in Winter Soldier. We've already had previous scenes in Spider-Man Homecoming where we have the Vulture going and doing villain stuff. This is the beginning. This is the start, and it's such a brilliant action piece to bring it all together, culminating in that one shot where he's misty in the distance to start off with, and then you have the shot of the car being blown up and him stepping to the side. It's a treatment.
30 seconds, George, go.
If you look at it, each villain scene with the Vulture progressing forwards, look at the Winter Soldier. It's a cop-out. We introduced this really cool guy. He can't even kill another man, Sam Jackson. Sam Jackson beats the faceless guys to kill Sam Jackson. The Winter Soldier, the super assassin, can't kill a bloke who runs off with a lightsaber going into the sewers. Then really, what's the point of the villain? As the film progresses, he loses each fight. He gets worse and worse and worse. His peak is him in the car swinging away. If he can't follow through with the kill, then what kind of villain is he? Whereas Vulture, he's worked out who he is directly in front of him. That's a moment of pure genius from a villain. Yours is a really cool. It's one great shot.
We're not talking about the future part of fight scenes in the film of the Winter Soldier. This is his introduction. This is him exploding onto screen, and we could talk about the Vulture scene as for all it is. It's a good acting performance, and it's paralleled by a kind of weak acting performance set over a car in a very meandering scene, which takes over like 3 minutes of the film. And it leaves you with nothing really to think about afterwards. It adds a little bit of the threat level, but having one of the main characters blown up in a car where he's just taken on an army, and then there's just one man who can do more than the army.
I think Tate saw a very different film with Winter Soldier exploding on screen, but
exploded onto with pizzazz.
Into the lens. Wow. So who wants to go first on this one? Because I don't.
No, you'll go first.
When I say that, it's because I never want to go first.
Then you're going first. Go on.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
going first. I'm going first quite well. Go on.
Wow. Where do I fall into this one? I think, Tate, you kind of hurt. This is from a personal level. You kind of hurt me there when you said this is one of Michael Keaton's weakest ever performances.
No, I said Tom Holland.
Oh, I thought you
My
said
entire argument, I was talking about Tom Holland having a weak performance.
God,
My entire argument was about how great.
Mind up. I haven't made my mind up. I genuinely can't go first.
Fine, I'll go first.
Go on.
Again. This was a tough one. They are two different scenes
Yeah.
that have two very different meanings for their particular films. With Tate, your scene sets up Winter Soldier for the rest of the film. George, your scene has Vulture put Spider-Man right where he wants him to be. I know exactly who you are. You screw up, you're dead. They are two very good moments for very different reasons. I didn't think I would be picking this scene, my choice, purely based on I thought that you'd exhausted the argument. However, you've made more points in this one, and George, you have the point. It is a tough one. Tate, you argued very well, and you actually did well with the attacking against Tom Holland. But I think overall you have exhausted some of your points. I think George has this one just. This was a very tough one.
So sorry, will you put Tate was
Points
going
for George.
there?
Points for George.
George.
I still haven't formulated a thought yet. Do you have one? Yeah.
I think for me, it did come down to how it was argued, and for me, I think George just edged it out. I mean, they were both good arguments, but I think by the end of it, I think Tate was just grasping at straws and just trying to go as much as possible with what little ammo he had thought of, and it was good ammo, but.
George, you were bricking yourself there, weren't you?
I wasn't bricking myself. I was laughing because I think I beat Tate 3 in a row tonight.
Yeah.
I was bricking myself because that was one of the hardest fights I've had to do, and I thought I had exhausted it, but clearly not.
It was a close fight for me. I think I would have just edged it to George. The comment you made about the lightsaber, I completely forgot he had that in the movie, and then as soon as you said that, I remembered that scene. I think George just argued it is that pivotal moment for the character. It is that sort of change in the character, that crux of the performance. I think there was just slightly a few more elements in the discussion to have at that point. As everyone said, I think Tate, you were running on fumes a little bit there towards the end. So I'm going to put.
I'll tell you what, I would have had nothing in the final if I'd taken that through.
The interesting thing for me is the fact that, as I said, I don't like Homecoming on a whole, because to me it feels like Iron Man 3.5 for half the film. As a Spider-Man fan, I feel they botched it by putting too much in. When his suit's taken away and it's just Tom Holland as Spider-Man, it fixes it, and I love the second half, hate the first. But I didn't think that Vulture would be getting through to the final, so yeah, Michael Keaton riding in.
Don't worry, he might not get his Oscar, but he gets his victory kind of final-ish moment.
Yeah.
If Michael Keaton wins, can you just change the final picture to the final shot of Batman 89 where he stood on the building with the bat signal behind him?
What about with Vulture wings this time?
Please.
Okay, so our next fight. God, I'm not looking forward to this.
It's Chris and the Iron Man 1 credit scene versus Civil War's Did You Know?
Okay, are you ready, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Am I up first? Am I up first, by the way?
Yes.
I'm up first, aren't I? Yeah. Okay.
3, 2, 1, go.
So I've kind of argued about the uniqueness of the scene and it being a post-credit scene and everything like that. But let's talk about the character of Iron Man within this scene. Up until that point, at the very end of the film, even when he says, "I am Iron Man," yes, he's a superhero now, but he still kind of sees himself as a celebrity. He's sort of in the know. He's the center of attention at this moment. And this scene kind of brings it all crashing down for him and makes him see a perspective. Nick Fury essentially delivers a monologue saying that, do you really think you're the only one out there? There's more people like you. There's this whole cosmic entity out there that we don't really understand yet. You are a very small fish in a very big pond. And that right there, even in the post-credit scene, is some great character development for Tony Stark, who was a very brash and arrogant guy who was still a very brash and arrogant guy at the end of the movie, but for different reasons. This makes him see the wider picture. And Tony has got to get to that point. For him to be an integral part of this team and to work with this team, he needs to be brought down to a level of understanding in the world in which he lives in. And now he has...
And go.
When you watch Iron Man 1 for the very first time, S.H.I.E.L.D. is in this. You've got Coulson. He's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. What's the famous comic book series? Nick Fury, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Late 60s, that began. So you already know within this that S.H.I.E.L.D. is coming. They're planning to do an Avengers film. So getting Sam Jackson in the credit scene is nothing special. They didn't. You could take out that credit scene and it would be the same because S.H.I.E.L.D.'s in it and he will still be in Iron Man 2 and use Iron Man 2 to set up the Avengers. To me, that credit scene was just a cool way of introducing Sam Jackson. Nothing else about the Avengers initiative. It's just the name drop, nothing more. Whereas my scene, yes, it's so many years later and so much more has advanced within this. But this is the character development of seeing Celebrity Iron Man. This is him at his lowest point with his parents, watching his parents die on screen and having to look up and see his best friend basically telling him he already knew years before. He already knew that he'd known his best mate had killed his mom and dad, as in Captain America's best mate. This is the most integral scene in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Whereas yours, it's a great setup scene, but there's already been a setup in the actual feature-length film, and there are future setups down the line. It's not like...
And go.
Your moment is a great moment within the film, but again, you talked about the predictability of my scene in that S.H.I.E.L.D. is mentioned a few times throughout the film, even with no mention of Nick Fury. Your scene, everyone knew it was going to build to that moment. The film starts off with that moment that it comes back to at the end as a bookmark. Like, we knew that that was coming. We knew that that was going to be the final moment before the final big punch 'em up between the two. So that argument's kind of null and void. I think my moment is more important. Yes, it's a smaller scene. Yes, it's a fraction of the time. And yes, you haven't had all this build up with the characters. But oh, that's really annoying.
And
That's really annoying. That's really annoying.
Ooh.
and go.
Just had to get that perfect, didn't you?
I had to end it on but.
You had to argue yourself into a...
Well, I'll see myself out, folks.
George, and go.
You can't... The importance of my scene is unparalleled. Yes, the opening scene sets up. You can't say mine didn't set it because S.H.I.E.L.D. is set up to be known in future films. S.H.I.E.L.D. is known. The characters from S.H.I.E.L.D. are there. You know it's established what's coming in the future. Mine, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know that Iron Man's going to find out. You didn't actually know Baron Zemo's plan until this said scene. You just knew there was a mission report of some kind. And this is why it's so much more important to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because this changed the game. Yours didn't change the game because we knew Avengers was the plan down the line. With this, you did not know that Iron Man was going to find out in this film that Bucky killed his parents.
Stop.
I hate the fact that I didn't have a clock in front of me during that.
It's when you get it right and they say time, and it's
What's even worse was Chris. I gave you 31 seconds on that one.
Oh,
I was waiting for the but, and I was like, yeah, I'll stop it now.
I've got no excuses.
I knew it was going to be perfectly timed. Oh my gosh.
Okay, but anyway, I'm still giving the point to you, Chris. You breathed new life into your argument. Say what you will about.
all right.
S.H.I.E.L.D.
What's that from Mother? What's his name? Javier Bardem. You're still keeping that
Yes.
meme alive?
You breathed life into this. You breathed life into this argument. No. You really won it over for me by kind of humbling Tony Stark, and it's the start of humbling Tony Stark, which does feature throughout various other films. That combined with your other arguments, which you previously used to argue this from this round, yeah, you got it.
How? Okay.
How?
I'll take
Fine.
it.
I will say that your rebuttal was going well until you started basically shooting yourself in the foot.
Repeatedly.
But I will say you only shot off one foot. You've still got another to stand on.
Okay. Thank you.
I am decided, Naomi, you can go next. I'm still on the fence.
Oh crap. Oh man, but you both had really good scenes. So again, this was gonna go from the arguments. And yeah, oh man, it's difficult because you both did really well. And I don't know, there's just something about the way George argued the Iron Man scene with Tony Stark, because the whole thing of I am Iron Man, that's not part of the post-credit scene. So I am going to have to give it to George.
Okay.
Oh, crap. So now I'm the decider. Okay.
You're the decider.
I'm
Now
the
you get to
decider.
feel what it's like.
Well, this is the tough one because unlike other ones that I felt you both had very strong arguments, you both had good points. Chris, your first half of your rebuttal was amazing. I'm not going to say much about the second half of your rebuttal there.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to, because you shot yourself in the foot, I'm trying to not use that as an excuse to give George the point. At the same token, it's hard to go, well, George, you have both people in the final, so you win no matter what happens. But keeping those aside, Chris, you did give, as Tate said, give new life to your argument. You did put a lot more into it than George. But again, George also put new life into his scene. This is why I feel like a heartbeat going on the back of the thing. Ooh, this
You need like the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire music, just like in the background.
It's going to be. Yeah. I almost predicted it by saying it's going to be Samuel L. Jackson versus Michael Keaton in the final. However, it's George versus himself.
Oh!
It's a tough one. That was not a fun decision there. But George, you have the point and the final, basically.
As tradition, if you have both people in the final, you can volunteer someone else. Yeah, that's what we do. We always do that.
We should do it.
And I am. I mean, it's really hard because I've done so well with Vulture, but Iron Man's the better scene, so I'm kind of gonna do the fairest thing and let Chris argue for let Chris argue for Michael Keaton.
For Batman. Oh, thank you.
We can't talk about him.
Hold on. If I let me screen share, so we have our final, which is Michael Keaton as Vulture, which I don't think anyone ever thought would get there, versus Did You Know from Civil War. Yeah. Chris, are we doing the extra time in the final as usual?
We are.
I think if we need it, so it's if you want to go into the times, Tate.
Oh, I can't even remember. I haven't actually done one of these in about half a year.
It's a minute and a half for the argument and a minute for the rebuttal.
Yeah, we add an extra 30 seconds on to each argument. If you need it, if you finish before that, it's optional.
So, are we flipping a coin to see who goes first? Because it'd be unfair to say.
I'll decide again since I'm the completely impartial one. And I'm going to let Chris go first.
This will be
I'll tell you what, because it's not your scene, I'll let George go first.
Okay.
Give you
a
bit of prep time. So George, you can go first.
I think it's too short a prep time to rewatch Spider-Man: Homecoming, isn't it? Because I've only seen it once.
True. George, I'll give you the go first. Take your time.
So it's a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Are you ready, George?
Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
We are arguing for the best Marvel Cinematic Universe. Mine scene is that. Yours is the best scene from Spider-Man: Homecoming. Granted, that's much of a title. We've done the best we can with Vulture. However, this is the thing that is going to change everything. So, yes, we know they're all going to be in Infinity War. We know that they might patch up. They might not. Iron Man's probably going to die tomorrow night. But this moment in itself, this is the build-up of... This is already a long-ass film. We're 2 hours in, and we finally got to the mission report number. And you literally sit there thinking, whoa, okay, so Iron Man's parents have been killed by Bucky. We knew that already. Now he's found out, and there's no parallel of the emotion within this scene that you're seeing this from Iron Man's family for the first time. You don't know how Iron Man's going to react, and just the one simple question: did you know? He doesn't even attack Bucky or anything. He wants to know immediately: does Captain America know? And it's bringing up that level of emotion because he could have just started a fight, and that's what you'd expect. But to ask his friend first, did you know? That is the defining moment of this film and of this franchise, seeing these 2 best friends completely lose it. And that is what happens from the simple answer. And he has to ask him 3 or 4 times. He knows the answer, but he wants a confirmation from Cat's mouth. And that is a tough scene. I think there's credit here, not just to Robert Downey Jr., but to Chris Evans' performance. He's trying to make the right choice. This is the character of Captain America. Is his morals in the right place? And this time he knows they aren't, and he tries to hide it. But Iron Man gets out of it, and it's such a sad scene to watch as Iron Man. We've never seen in this run, well, that's not just the black eye. It's him genuinely being terrified. Not terrified, sorry. It's genuinely him, upset with his friend.
And stop. And go.
I hardly say that your moment is the defining moment of the cinematic universe when you have Michael Keaton gracing the silver screen as the Vulture. We've all talked about it. Spider-Man: Homecoming was not Marvel's finest hour. However, by God, the shining light in this is Michael Keaton as the Vulture. And you're right, like before it, like he's definitely been established as a villain. But at this point, inherently, like the crux of his character, he is a family man. Like he has a family. He's just a dad. He's like, you know, just try to make ends meet at the job he's working. But it's as the clocks tick in his head in this moment that the person in the backseat of his car is his arch nemesis, is Spider-Man. And you could play it both ways. Like you could do like the sort of, and not a knock against him at all, but the Norman Osborn way in the original Spider-Man movie where it's very pantomime, like he knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. This is very subtle. This is very calculated. And as he's working it out, like the facial expression of Michael Keaton, he plays it perfectly in this scene. You can see everything he's thinking and everything he's planning and everything this means, not just for himself and Spider-Man, but also for his daughter who's caught between this. And it's a great sort of like connective tissue for the character and just completely sums his character up in his stance. Your moment, like, as I've said, like, we knew it was going to inherently come to this moment. Like we've seen great interplay between these characters before, we've seen dramatic scenes between these characters before. This really isn't anything special because this is, you see it on the poster, you know that these characters are going to come to a head. And I know that we're not arguing.
And stop.
Oh, damn it.
And go.
You're right. We know these characters are coming, Tad, and we've just had the airport scene. That's where you think the big battle's been. The airport scene was that climax, but no, this came after. This was the character development within that. And you're right about the Vulture. He is a family man, and it's great, but sometimes it feels it's a bit, when you rewatch it, it's a bit too coincidental. Oh, you were there in Washington? Oh, okay, that narrows it down. Oh, you weren't in the tower? It narrows it down, and immediately within 20 seconds, you know exactly what it's heading towards. And you're right, everyone knows mine's going to happen, but it's waiting for it to happen. And the realization when it comes is, oh, it's even more dramatic than it could be. There's no Martha, there's none of that. The simple question, did you know? And it leaves you an emotional moment, whereas yours, it's a great setup for the finale and what follows it, but the finale dampens after your moment. It doesn't build up off what mine does, whereas my film is building up to this point and this progresses to the next level. Yours is a dip, raised dip. It's a great scene in a standout scene amongst the mediocrity, whereas mine is standout amongst greatness. And there's something that you just can't compare to Spider-Man Homecoming. The best Marvel scene of all time.
And go.
You said that the finale of my film dampens the moment of my movie. Well, couldn't you argue that the moment before dampens the moment of your finale? The airport scene, you said, feels like the climax to your film. That is where everything comes to a head. That is what everyone wants to see. After that, it feels like the movie's kind of treading water and just becoming overly long at that point. My scene, like, if you look at any villain in the MCU, like, you expect to see them in full costume and you go, like, that's the villain I want to see. But actually, arguably, the best moment of the Vulture is this one moment where it's just a dad in the car just driving his daughter to prom and working out the guy, you know, is Spider-Man. He doesn't have to be in the overblown, fully blown Vulture costume for him to be menacing. He's menacing as a character himself. And inherently, that's where my argument comes down to, in that we knew that where yours was building to, and you kind of have that emotional relief of the characters rushing each other on the airport scene, so that everything after that just kind of feels pointless, like the Zemo stuff and everything like that. It's not as interesting.
Good fight.
Okay.
That was I don't know how the fuck I managed that.
It's really hard to
bullshitted
argue
that.
for, but it's also really easy to argue for.
So
isn't it?
very different scenes as well. Like, just
Yeah.
you couldn't have had like the worst pairing of scenes or the best pairing of scenes, depending on your outlook. Yeah. So,
At least they were
Okay.
like character scenes versus like action
Yeah.
versus character.
yeah.
So
Okay.
who's choosing who wins? Because I technically have one regardless, but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, it really doesn't matter at this stage because George's picks have won. But I will say, George, you picked the wrong pick.
No, I
And
didn't.
Chris completely picked your pick apart.
That's fine.
And
Chris
I
loves
ju-
Michael Keaton.
Chris loves Michael Keaton so much that I'm willing to give George the victory with Michael Keaton's.
Yeah, I've already won.
But Chris can have Chris might be able to gain the moral victory here. For yeah.
Hashtag dicks out for Keaton. No, just me. Put it away.
Just you.
We can't see underneath your desk, so.
There's an image none of us need. Go on, Naomi.
Okay, I think for me, they're both great standout moments. And it was hard because this was for what is the defining best Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think for me, what sold it was Chris's rebuttal of just that you don't need the costume for a big moment. You don't need that kind of like outlandishness because it is like suddenly punch in the face, as it were. For it's kind of that you can have that calm, calculating person in the car, and I think it did sell me on that. Sorry, George, even though you still win anyway, but still.
It's not going to be a clean sweep.
Okay.
At the start now, I'm going to give the point to George, even though it's not giving the point to George. I'm going to give it to Civil War there. I think, Chris, you did amazingly well with a minute's prep time. I'm not going to lie. It helps that you love Michael Keaton. That's fine.
Yeah.
I am extremely surprised that Vulture won after all this. We have all said that Homecoming left a lot to be desired, yet it just proves how well Keaton did and how well Vulture was portrayed. But purely on the argument, I'm giving it to Civil War there. However, a surprise victory in the end for Vulture.
For Vulture.
Vulture, and if you look at the screen right now,
this pleases me so much.
Oh no, actually, if you bear with me, like 3 seconds. Sorry about this, folks. I'll just put the wrong. There we go. Now we should see Michael Keaton winning.
Looks like he's got the Infinity Gauntlet. If you look at it,
Michael Keaton is Thanos confirmed.
Now imagine that film. Vulture's got the gauntlet.
Ooh, that would be a shock to see.
He just clicks his finger. Tom Holland disappears.
That would justify Iron Man being in the film so much.
Can we just talk about the fact that he had to take out a scene from the Winter Soldier and 2 scenes from Civil War to win?
To be fair though, he had it was a tough one. It had a tough road. I am very, very shocked he got there.
Me too. Like, if you just look at all the movies, like not even from the moments that we had, but like just in general, like your big bombastic action sequences. The best Marvel Cinematic Universe moment that we voted for is Michael Keaton in a car taking his daughter to prom.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong though. He had easy road to the quarterfinal though, because against Star-Spangled Man he didn't. Captain.
I thought he was out then.
That's all the brackets though. It has always been the moment where we don't expect it. It's always been that moment where we're just like, really you including that? And it somehow comes out top because it is based on the argument.
What this also does is we don't really have a graphic for it yet, but of all of our Battle of the Brackets winners, there's a minor leaderboard where I've now overtaken Chris. So I've got 7 wins. Chris has 6 wins. Tom has 2 wins. Ryan has 1 win, and Tate has 1.
I have 0 from under.
I'm not gonna lie.
I have none because I can't argue it.
Get me back on another TV bracket, and I'll probably win it.
Didn't you come on Game of Thrones and lose?
Oh yeah, shit, I did. But I believe in Alfie Allen. Goddammit.
I had 2 in the semi-finals of Star Wars, and we still lost both times.
I think the worst one I ever had was I had 3 in the semi-finals and I lost.
Yeah.
But now that we've done, like, what number was this show? Was it 16 or something
17.
like that?
This is 17 as in how many we've done, but 16 live because the famous one that never was. It was like, I mean, there's rare, and then there's a one-off live stream with no replay.
I was trying to like picture a Battle of the Brackets where there's no rhyme or reason to it, and it's just an absolute clusterfuck where we just take the winner of all of the ones that we've done and just throw it into a bracket and just see what comes out of it. Just like throw it into the melting pot. No, this was a lot of fun. It was good talking about comic book movies again. Good talking about Marvel. I have no idea what our next idea for a Battle of the Bracket is. I know that with Han Solo coming out, we've maybe discussed like doing another Star Wars one or having that as like a supplementary one.
Very much up for coming back on for that.
Yeah.
Last time I was here was for a Star Wars Battle of the Bracket as well. Yeah.
I think Star Wars is. We wanted to do one in December, but we never got around to setting up, did we? So
yeah,
I think Star Wars is a likelihood to go ahead.
In the honor of Solo, a Star Wars story, could we do worst Star Wars moment?
Yes.
There's a few.
Yes.
Get me on there.
There's a whole lot of moments.
Yeah, I'm down. I think that's our next one, people. We're done. Worst Star Wars moment.
Would it include any fuck ups that were done because of Lucas remastering everything?
Yes.
Oh, yes. I think we should.
In theory, it could.
I would happily take Jedi Rocks as #1 pick.
Oh,
no,
well, you've just won.
fine.
You've just won.
Fine.
Can we extend it to like everything else, or is it just purely the movies?
Just the films.
I think just the films.
I would win with Rebels.
If we're picking the games, I'd literally just say the word EA and.
Dude,
Microtransactions.
Battlefront 2 has officially
if you
died.
want to
but
know
that's
the
an argument for
answer,
another
who
time.
wins the argument, you have to pay this much money.
And we'll give you the results 6 months later.
Yeah.
If we do it all.
Yeah.
I
But
think
anyway.
that would be the next one, people. In the meantime, it's now Wednesday, which means in 24 hours I will be at the IMAX watching Infinity War.
Nice.
I have to wait till Friday. It sucks.
Just
Chris,
avoid
when
the
you-
internet.
I'm
will
going
be.
to be seeing it first showing at midnight as well, but not in IMAX, sadly.
I will be seeing it 11 a.m. on Thursday morning at my local cinema. So we'll have a review out. I think we're aiming for evening time, UK time, around 10 o'clock, I think we said, didn't we? Or something like that. I think it's going to be a late one. But yeah, no, expect a review up for that. I guess that rounds everything off. So we've announced what our next one's going to be. In the meantime, we're still going to have plenty more movie reviews. We're going to have trailer reactions and everything like that along the way. Thank you to everyone on the stream tonight, George, Tate, Naomi, and Phil. Thank you to everyone in the comments. It's been great seeing some of your suggestions as well and comments along the way. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, comment, spread the word, all that good stuff. And until the next video, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Right.